Hey everybody, welcome to Lamb Living. My name is Holly Lamb, and in today's video, I'm going to be making some tiered tray decor for this tiered tray. No, not that blanket. I am in the Dollar Plus section at my local Dollar Tree. I'm going to be taking home the one with the little leaf on the top. There it is. And I'm going to be making some tiered tray decor from Dollar Tree items, as well as a few Dollar General items, but mostly Dollar Tree today. And these are still out in the Dollar Tree Plus sections, even though they've already started getting out some Christmas items over there. But these were a fun little tiered tray. They have kind of a wrought iron look to them, and they're super easy to put together. Now, there's not much of a connection right there. It took me a second to get it to connect, but it does. There we go. There's not much of a little screw there, but I got it to pull together. And I'm going to be taking a few Dollar General items and a few Dollar Tree items from their, their little Chunkies, the little shelf sitters. And you see how the Dollar Tree ones that are $1.25, of course, are a little bit bigger. And the Dollar General ones are a little smaller, but honestly for tiered tray decor, the small ones are nice as well. So you can see the size difference there. The red tag being the $1.25. And so they all fit nicely on the tiered tray. There's nothing worse than having something that is too tall for your tiered tray. So this was a great little tiered tray. But I didn't really care for the wood grain. It's realistic looking and there's nothing wrong with it. But I thought to myself, should I triple thick it? Should I make it look a little more shiny, or should I just go ahead and paint it? And I just went ahead and painted it because that's what I typically do. And plaster is my white of choice around here, even though I'm going to be using the Waverly Paint Cashew later on in the video on those little Chunkies, and I'm really liking Cashew for the fall. So this got 3 coats. And then I'm going to distress it back just a little bit. I'm going to try to get all my edges and corners. I always like to do the bottoms first and then flip it over and do the top. You can still see a little bit of that wood grain coming through, even after 3 coats, which is fine with me. I like a little bit of texture, so there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just taking my nail files here, and I'm using the gritty, the 80 grit side to roughen up those edges just a tad. And I always keep baby wipes at my right hand because they are just handy dandy when I'm crafting. There we go. So we got them painted, we got them distressed just a little bit. And now I'm going to come in with the white wax. This is the Waverly white wax, which has a nice creamy ivory look. And I love the way that looks with the plaster chalk paint. It's just the perfect off-white. I'm going to paint it on with one of my chippy brushes from the Dollar Tree there. And then I'm just going to take a dry paper towel and then just buff it back. And that will seal this. And after a couple of days, it'll be cured just fine to be putting things on. There we go. I'll just put it back together here. I love that little leaf on the top. Now I'm going to take some ink. This is the Ranger ink in the color Potting Soil. It's one of my favorites. It kind of reads brown, but it's also got a little bit of a goldenness to it that I just love. And I like to take it just to the edges of things because that white wax, it kind of lightened up my distressing just a little bit too much. So this Potting Soil will take care of that. And if I get a little bit too much, baby wipe to the rescue. Always nice to have right at my right hand. There we go. And so that's basically all I'm going to do to this little tiered tray. A quick upcycle, fix, whatever you want to call it. And I like the way that looks on my wooden table. If I had left it that wood and maybe put on some triple thick or something like that, it just would have blended a little bit too much to my table. So here we go. These are the Chunkies. That's Dollar General. There we go. There's the dollar ones. And then the Dollar Tree ones are there on the bottom with the red tag. And of course, getting all the preparing blanks is what I call it. Preparing blanks is always a trick. But usually my heat tool is good enough to get off any kind of stickers on the back. But now I wanted to see how the status of what was on there. Usually I want to peel off any paper that is loose, but these Dollar General Chunkies, they weren't loose. There was no loose paper. It almost had kind of a resin covering on it. And so I just decided I couldn't peel anything off. So I just took my little, nail file sandpaper there and sanded off the edges so they were rounded. And I'm going to leave them. I like the kind of a retro, kind of a mid-century modern colors and fonts. And so I'm going to leave those on there because they were on there solid. And they already have some kind of finish on them. But now these ones from the Dollar Tree obviously have flappy paper on them. And that, I don't like that. And so I'm going to go ahead and peel that off. I'm going to try first with my heat tool to loosen up the glue underneath and see if I can get that paper off. These are not wood. They're some type of press board, some type of MDF. And so I don't like to submerge them in water lest they warp. I don't want them to do that. So after trying my best to peel off anything that was loose, I've got a wet kind of a dishcloth over there. There's my wet dishcloth, that gray and white check. And I just set it on top where I've done some, tearing and ripping. And the part that has exposed paper where I've torn off the top will come off just super easy. And so then I rip off anything wet that, will come off. And then I'll put the wet cloth back on that one for just a little bit and work on the other two. So here I go. I got as much off as I could. And then I put that wet cloth. And after a couple times, it comes off. And it doesn't get my MDF too wet, and so they don't warp. And so they're ready for paint. And there's my cashew paint. Did you check out that price tag? Somebody at Walmart spilt brown paint on this particular new bottle of cashew chalk paint that normally runs $8. And they had marked it down to $2 because it had a little bit of paint spilled on it. Well, that's okay with me. So I picked that up and I thought, well, I might not have tried that cashew color. And I just love it. Look how pretty that is. It's a little more brown than the ivory and certainly darker than the plaster color. And I love it. I think it goes very nicely with this, the fall colors. And so I don't want that MDF to show on the sides there on those Dollar General chunky signs. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cashew on the sides as well, just trying to be careful. And since that paper, and I say paper, it wasn't paper. It was, it has some kind of resin coating on it. If I got a little bit on the resin coating, I just had my baby wipe there to pull it back off. And so that's pretty much all I did to those. I am going to put some napkin on the backs here. I've had these napkins for years. I'm not sure where I got them, but you can get gorgeous napkins right now at like TJ Maxx or Home Goods. Let's see, where else has some gorgeous napkins? Party City has some pretty napkins right now. They've got tons of Halloween, as you can imagine, right now, but lots of Thanksgiving as well. And, of course, any of your department stores that have party have gorgeous napkins like this. And so you take off all the plies, just use the top ply with the printing. And my decoupage of choice is matte Mod Podge, of course. And I put a layer of that on, and then I'm going to use my clean, dry hands and just pat those down. If I get a little bit of wrinkling, that's okay. Because after it dries, I'm going to put another coat of Mod Podge down. And now this one, did you notice? I put the stem right up the straw on that one, on the back of that one. And so I have them going in all willy-nilly directions. But after it dries, after I put another coat, I will sand this. So at this point, I will get off all the edges as normal, sanding downward so that I don't accidentally pull up my napkin. And then I'll also run my sandpaper on the looser grit, on the higher grit, the 100 grit, and I will gently rub out those wrinkles, which will give it kind of a, a distressed look. And then I'll put a final coat of the Mod Podge on. And I think I put the Coffee Podge on these. We'll see. Yep, nope, just use a Mod Podge. And so those will stay nice and bright. Beautiful. I love those napkins. Those are pretty. All right, now on the back of the Dollar Tree ones, I'm going to use these printouts that I printed from. This one is from Cloud Petals Company. This is an Etsy seller. I have them, this particular one, linked down in my description box. But now you're not going to be able to get this purple color. I'm sorry. The only way I'm getting this purple color is because I'm still being cheap and not replacing my toner cartridge on my laser printer. There's just too much color left in it. I can't do it. I can't waste. So, purple it is. All right, now on this one, I only had 3, so I had 4 Chunkies. And so on this one, I'm going to put that gorgeous picture of a pumpkin. This one is from Whimsical Art Graphics. I've also, these are so cheap. If you buy their graphics, you have them forever. And you can, continue to print from these. And these watercolor pictures, there's so many pretty watercolors. And I just love the way watercolor looks. And I'm going to do a little bit of watercoloring on one here in just a little bit. But I just love the way it looks. So I'm going to get it all pressed down. Now I'm using glue stick here. And so I can go right away after I use my Jot glue sticks from the Dollar Tree. I can go right ahead and start, sanding off this excess paper. I don't have to wait. Glue stick makes it a lot quicker and a lot, I don't know. If you're not a patient person, which I tend to not be. I don't like to be patient when I'm crafting, but, there's always dry time. Then glue stick might be your answer. But, so that's what, all these have been done with glue stick. And so I'm going to be adding this Coffee Grunge. And you can see it kind of lessened that purple. So now it's not so purple. My ink cartridge is missing a lot of yellow. I think it's run out of yellow, actually, the cyan. But anyway, this Coffee Grunge, which is 1 cup warm water, a 1/2 cup instant coffee granules, 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and 2 tablespoons of imitation vanilla. And that is what I'm putting on these to kind of make it look a little more fallish and a little less Valentine's-ish because I'm missing a lot of yellow. It looks very pink and purple, which I'm not hating. I love it. But now this is what I call Coffee Podge, or what Tracey Campbell from My Sweet Home Living calls Coffee Podge. That's where I got these recipes. They're down in my description box, and I've linked her page as well. But I'm going to use Coffee Podge. That's a little more than half and half, a little more Mod Podge than Coffee Grunge. So, but it's got not quite half of the Coffee Grunge in this, so it still puts a good bit of darkness. Now I've put 2 coats on these. You can see they got nice and tanned, nice and browned, and so I'm just cleaning up the edges and putting a little distress on that, so it has some hills and valleys. And now for the whipped cream, I'm just going to use my DIY white wax, and I'm going to put a couple of coats of this to give it that kind of whipped cream look there on the straw and on the whipped cream part. Add a little bit of detail there, just as a little something. Of course, it's still a little bit translucent and not completely opaque. So I like the way that looks. It's kind of a fun texture. There we go. We're going to add some twine, and I'm going to add some ripped muslin that I've coffee stained, and I'm going to add some, just some fun things. There we go. I've added a few bows there and some twine bows, and I just love the way that looked. Look at that stem on that one with the watercolor pumpkin. Oh, I just love those watercolor printouts. And then these labels, they were from Heart to Heart Digital, and all those links are below if you want to go buy those digital prints. They are so inexpensive, and you can just use them and use them and use them. And that purple grunged down a little bit. Looks great in my my little hutch there. And then there's all those cool Dollar General ones there on my tier tray. Perfect for the tier tray. And you can see where I've distressed that leaf a little bit by sanding down anything that wrinkled up. I love the way that looks. All right, now let's get to that cute little squirrel and see what we can do with him. All kinds of cute here. Those chunky leaves. There's these. Some Halloween over here. These are kind of fun. Look at, are these $1.25? Wow. Some of those. Oh, here's the little cute woodland creatures. This squirrel's pretty. Look at that. I've had him before, and I've had the fox, the little raccoons. Oh, he's so cute. And I love orange, but I don't know. The squirrels around here, here in South Georgia where I live, they're not orange. They're brown for sure. So I'm going to try to make him look a little bit more my style. He is awfully cute. Or she, I don't know. She's kind of got a sparkle in her eye. Makes me think she might be a little girl. But she is going to get a couple of coats of this cashew chalk paint by Waverly. And I'm going to, completely coat she and her little acorn there. There we go. There we go. Now these little, I guess they're resin figurines. They have lots of details, lots of bumps and grooves and hills and valleys in them. And so taking a little bit of watered down antique wax from Waverly is going to bring those out quite a bit. So I'm going to do 2 layers of wax. One is going to be the antique wax, and then I'm going to be doing some white wax from the DIY white wax. So we're going to make her a little more, have a white sheen. But I want to darken up some of those crevices a good bit. So I'm just painting it on, and this is watered down a little bit. And then I'm rubbing it back so you can see, her little eyes and all the little details in the tail. And then, of course, this is white wax. It looks quite a bit different than the Waverly white wax. And it's going to, instead of turning her ivory, it's going to give her a real nice white glow, which will make her stand out on our tiered tray. And again, now I did let this Waverly wax, the dark wax, I did let it dry. So I'm not coming in right away with this. I let it set up because I didn't want to wipe off any of my dark wax. I wanted it to stay still. And so I let it cure for quite a bit. And then I come in with the white wax and do exactly the same thing. You can see the darks and the lights and all kinds of colors, even though it gives it definitely a neutral kind of vibe, which I like. So I can put lots of colors up next to it, and she's still gonna just be a beautiful addition to a tiered tray. Look how pretty. Much more like our squirrels around here. They don't have that pretty white sheen to them, but definitely not orange. There we go. And then that beautiful orange, that kind of retro orange look on that chunky just really pops. And that the squirrel is not, she just being her neutral self, looking gorgeous. Love the tail. All right, let's go to our last project. Now this one, I'm going to be putting, this is from last year. I had this in my craft closet, and I wanted to have a little, little rolling pin chunky sign. I'm going to be using my apothecary labels. This is from IOD, and I get most of my IOD products from Deborah down at Cottle and Gun in St. Mary's, Georgia. She's about an hour away from me. And I use a thin mount. That's also IOD. And they're just real handy to use. So I get things straight. And so I'm going to be using the letters from the Apothecary labels. There's 4 different fonts, and I'm going to be using one of them. I don't have the names of them. It's one of the bigger ones. And I'm going to put pumpkin spice on there. Cute. Because I love everything pumpkin spice. There we go. I think this is what I put on there. Yeah, spice. And I, being the extra person that I am, I bought two of the Apothecary label sets because I was afraid they were going to sell out and I wouldn't be able to have 2. And I knew I would be using tons of these. And I don't like to not have 2 of, popular letters. So like in pumpkin, I was able to have 2 P's. And there we go. On the other side, I think I used 2 of some letter. Yay! I just love that. I'm using that potting soil ink again. That's what I use, so it gives kind of a brown, goldish look to it. And then I'm going to be using the Harvest, what was that called? I can't remember. Harvest something. Autumnal Harvest? I don't know. Anyway, it was there it'll be in the description box. It's a retired stamp. But any leaf will do. Oh, no, this is from Lady Shalott. Excuse me. This is a leaf it's got some beautiful, huge, big, like hydrangeas in it. And then here's, there it is, Fruitful Harvest. That's it. Fruitful Harvest. I'm going to use the leaf from that. And this is the one I'm going to watercolor. And I'm going to I wanted that leaf to overlap my... I'm going to use sepia. This is the sepia color, which is a little more brown. But I want the leaf to overlap my acorn stem there. So I'm going to not use a thin mount here. I'm going to be just using my fingers and using the silicone stamp. And I'm brave enough to do that on these smaller stamps. I'm not really brave enough to do it with the bigger ones. I feel better using the thin mount on the bigger stamps. But for these smaller stamps, because I wanted this leaf to overlap onto, there we go, the stem, I couldn't do that with the thin mount. I'd had to do them separately anyway, so I'm just going to forego the thin mount. There we go. I did let it bounce, but, nobody's perfect. I do have a little something I need to fix there. But it's okay. Oh, I just love them. I love both sides. So here I go. I'm going to fix my mistake. I did when I was picking it up. It stuck to my fingers and bounced back down. But easy fix. I just took my cashew paint and painted over the extra little bit of ink because this is permanent ink. It's gonna stay. Now when I watercolor, of course I'm putting on the letters, and I'm definitely going to use thin mount for this. There we go, and I'm just putting the corner right up to it so I make sure it gets right where I want it. Wipe off any extra ink and touch every little bit, and it always turns out great. Now, whenever I watercolor any of my stamps, I do this a lot. I always like to take it outside as long as it's not raining or something and spray it once with my matte clear. And then I'm sure that my ink is not going to run because I want to see those lines. I want to see that detail. I don't want it to run into any of this watercolor. I've watered down that pumpkin chalk paint from Waverly a lot. You can see it running there, and the brown is the antique wax. And so I'm just going to be using the orange on the leaf, and then on the acorn I'm going to be using the antique wax watered down, but I'm also going to come back in and on the stem there and put the antique wax in the tips there because this leaf has changed colors and is falling to the ground, so it needs some extra color, and I just love the way that looks. Gorgeous. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with my potting soil ink. Just going to clean up the edges there so I don't get any surprises that I did to the tier tray, and I'm just going to lightly and randomly dab on my edges with the ink to give it just a light distress. And this one is finished. Yeah. it was raining like the dickens when I finished this, so we've had lots of rain here lately. So I did not finish it with a little matte clear, but you certainly could. If you were going to sell, if I was going to sell this, I certainly would finish it off with a spray of the matte clear. But there it is, and I just love the way it looks. And there it is on the fall side, and then I'm going to show you on the pumpkin spice. Yeah, most of our leaves around here still are green. That's why I put it green on this side, because our leaves don't change until Thanksgiving week. No, for reals. We don't get color, and we don't get a lot of that because we have a lot of evergreens around here. I want to thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you'll hit that like button if you like this video, and subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. I would love to have you, and come back and keep watching. I want to leave you with a scripture of hope. And Jeremiah 17:14 says, "Heal me, O Lord, and I will be healed. Save me, and I'll be saved, for you are the one I praise." And so this fall season, we pray and we praise, and I am so thankful for you, and I hope and I wish you God's blessings, and from the Blue House on the Corner, finding peace and healing in the